Call the order of the Admin and Finance Committee. Take a roll call, please.
Dr. Bophy?
Present.
Dr. Bophy is present. Mr. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Davis is present. Ms. Edmondson?
Here.
Ms. Edmondson is present. Mr. Garvey? Mr. Garvey is not present. Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Ms. Holloway is present. Dr. Jones?
Here.
Dr. Jones is present. Ms. Lewis?
I'm here.
Ms. Lewis is present. Ms. Orange Jones? Ms. Orange Jones is present.
Present. I'm present.
Mr. Rock?
Present.
Mr. Rock is present. Dr. Thomason?
Present.
Dr. Thomason is present. And Ms. Boutier?
Here.
Ms. Boutier is present. You have a quorum.
Great. What's our first item of business?
The consent agenda is ready for approval, adding items 4.1, 5.1, 6.1, 6.2, and 7.1.
Need a motion, please?
So moved.
Second by Ms. Bochet. Motion by Dr. Bophy. No objection. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Your first item will be on page 126, item 4.2, consideration of annual LDE budgets. Recommendations are to A, receive the report regarding the 2019-2020 LDE budget, B, approve the 2018-2019 RSD budget, and C, receive the report regarding the special school district strategic framework.
Members, if I could, I'd like to get a motion, a separate motion for each of these items. So if I could at this point get a motion to receive for item A.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Dr. Bophy. We've got a second by Ms. Edmonston. Do we have any questions or comments, information for that?
I just have a question.
Ms. Bochet, question?
Could you tell me the source of funding for that first budget, and then also what these legacy costs pertain to?
This is under the report we're receiving for A, Superintendent?
Could you tell me which
Department of Education.
page you're on, Ms.
I
Voce?
think you were doing the first one, right?
A.
A.
Is that appropriate to this, is that relevant to this one, Ms. Bochet?
I don't know which one we're on.
The budget
Receive the
request
report.
for the Louisiana Department will be submitted to the Office of Planning and Budget?
No, it would be the B.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's come to that one in just a moment then.
All right, then I'll wait.
Any questions on A, members?
I don't see a budget.
I don't
That's,
see-
it's the wrong question. We'll get to that in a
It's
second.
just it's saying that there will be a budget in the future, and we, from the state, the executive budget, and we will submit our request effectively. So
Page 126.
we're required to do that. I'm told it's page 126. Yeah.
126.
Yeah.
So members, for
Submitted one
clarification,
next year.
that's
correct.
Right,
Yes.
not this year.
This is a report to say this is what's going out.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this item? With none, that item carries. Our next one, I need a motion to approve the RSD budget.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Holloway, second by Dr. Bophy. Any report on this particular item?
Yeah, so I'll just answer, Ms. Voce's question. This is almost entirely charter school administrative funding from those charter schools that are in the recovery school district.
Right, so the source of funding would be what for this?
Well, it originally is MFP, yeah.
And just MFP?
And that's mainly MFP. yeah,
MFP.
yeah.
And the legacy costs, just out of curiosity, what are they?
The state has, from the time, because the RSD has whittled down, there are still costs associated with staff who are no longer on the RSD's payroll. This used to be in the millions of dollars because of workers' comp and other issues that would result from retired employees from the Orleans Parish School Board after Katrina that then came over to the RSD and then went away. So there's just a small and very, soon it will be zero, set of legacy costs that are residue of previous obligations that the state had.
All right.
Are there any other questions from the members on this item? With no comments and no questions, is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, that motion passes. Our next thing is I'll need a motion now to receive a report on the special school district. Can I get that motion? Dr. Thomason, second by Ms. Evanston. If I could have Superintendent Pat Cooper come up, please. I believe you have a presentation for us.
And members, I will just preface this by saying that over the last year and a half, we have, as a board and as a department, commissioned studies of the special school district As a consequence of those studies, we commissioned management consultants to help us try to reorganize the agency. There were also some leadership transitions enacted, and I'm very grateful to our interim superintendent, Pat Cooper, who has longstanding experience with the SSD and in special education generally, for stepping in to play that role. He is here today to update you on the status of the implementation of the findings from the auditors and the surveys that were done over the last year. So thank you, Superintendent Cooper, and we look forward to hearing your report. I know you're accompanied by Jamie Wong, who many of you know on behalf of the state agency has been kind of assisting and guiding this process very capably since the inception.
Great, thank you. And thank you, John, for providing that brief overview. We have just a few things that we wanted to walk through with you today before I hand it over to Pat, who will walk you through the framework that their team has been working on around the improvements of the special school district, as well as introducing you to some of the key players in his team that you'll become familiar with moving forward as we continue to bring information to all of you. So Superintendent White mentioned, and I'll go through this very briefly, I'm sure you all are very tired from your very long day today, but this is just a timeline and overview of where we are. If you recall, we began these discussions over a year ago in response to concerns about the outcomes for students that were being served in the schools and programs operated by the special school district. We went through an RFP process to identify an outside evaluator to give us some information about what was happening in all of those environments, have brought to you over the course of the summer some recommendations of how we would move forward, and we have here today to provide you an update on this entire process. This is just a brief overview of the team who was the recipient and the winner of the RFP process. It was a team led by the Education Development Center out of Massachusetts, with experts in the key areas served, the key disability areas represented in the special school district. They had evaluators from the American School for the Deaf, the Perkins School for the Blind, and the Cotting School, all representing key experts in low incidence disability implementation. While they were charged with looking specifically at each of the three schools, the three special schools operated by the special school district, which are the Louisiana School for the Deaf, the Louisiana School for the Visually Impaired, and the Louisiana Special Education Center, their overall recommendation was that in order for these schools to be great, in order for them to be models of excellence across the state and the country, we really, as a state, needed to take a hard look at the overall structure of the special school district. And they gave some very key and specific recommendations on the things that we should be looking at as a part of this process, as you see on your screens. As a department, we then came back to you over this summer and made three commitments. The first being that we were going to redesign the position of the superintendent of the SSD and really rethink about what we were asking the person leading that district to take on. We also said we were going to conduct an in-depth analysis of the organizational and financial structure of the special school district, and that we were going to prepare regular updates for you, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, on the progress we're making on all of this work. You'll see we have accomplished those first two. We have our new interim superintendent, Dr. Pat Cooper, sitting here today, who will provide you with our first update and introduction to the team. So with all that said, I'm going to hand it over to him now to lead you through the rest of our update today.
Well, thank you, Jamie, and I just want to reiterate what Superintendent White said. Jamie's been a huge help to us as we put this thing together. I've been on board since July, and I'm really happy to be back working with BESE and the Department of Education and the folks at the SSD. It's hard to believe 40 years ago I was working at the Department of Education when we designed SSD. And so it's really nice to come back to it. There's a lot of good things that are going on in spite of some of the negative things that were reported. And there's some really good people who are there and who are willing to help us to get better. So I wanted to introduce to you before I started some of the new leadership that we have on board, especially at the schools. We have Christy Flynn, who is at the Louisiana Special Ed Center, but she was not able to come down today from Alexandria. But we do have Melanie Eaton, who is principal at LSVI. Now we understand. And we have Ryan Golliner, who is the principal and director of LSD. And I also wanted to introduce two other people who have been invaluable. These are folks that were at SSD before and who have really helped me to understand some of the things that were going on and some of the things that needed to go on. Meredith Jordan is our Assistant Superintendent for Academics. And Marie Henderson is the Director of our Shared Academic Services. So they've been really key in looking at our academic issues that we've tried to deal with. So I think first, and I'll be quick about this, I think there's a lot of, I think in the state, a lot of misconception about what SSD is. We serve about around 1,800 students annually in 3 schools that you're familiar with, the special schools, 4 Office of Juvenile Justice sites, 8 Department of Correction sites, 2 Louisiana Department of Health sites, and 3 state-affiliated private hospitals. So there's more than just the School for the Deaf and the School for the Visually Impaired. There's just a lot more out there, and a whole lot of very vulnerable students that are spread all over the state in these sites. So the first thing that we tried to do was to make sure that everybody understood what we were trying to accomplish here, and that was we were trying to accomplish good things for the children. And that's where we pulled together a group of folks, and we came up with a new vision and a new mission, core values. And you'll see, if you look at those core values and the vision and the mission, I think there's a really good balance, as it should be, of very rigorous goals and expectations, but also, I think, mixed with some very humane considerations. One of the things we had to do was just take everything where it is, and then let's move forward. And so that's what we're attempting to do. So we're rebranding our school district with the help of a lot of people here at the department, but we've come up with some strategic priorities. And if I can just kind of lay these out for you, we're going to put the flesh on the bone as we go, but I think you need to know kind of where we're heading. And one of those is this whole idea of unifying this district, because SSD was in silos, and so one of the things we had to do was say, look, we're going to be one district, one family, and all of these children are important. And we'll do the best that we can together to make sure that we do what we need to do for them. Second thing was ensuring excellent schools and programs. We just have to have high expectations. We can't say, well, these children have this disability or that. We all decided together as a team that we wanted to have excellent schools and programs, and we thought that together we could make that happen. We might have to do it a little bit differently. It might take a little more time, but we could make that happen in all of our programs. We had to build some innovative partnerships. When you're working, in our 2 schools, there's partnerships that have to be done on campus here in Baton Rouge and across over to Alexandria, but there's other issues. All these other places where our kids are, especially in the Office of Juvenile Justice facilities or the behavioral health facilities, there's got to be partnerships there. We can't come in and assume that we know everything and that people have to do it a certain way. So that takes time to develop those relationships and those partnerships. But we're able to do that, I think. And then we have to prove what's possible. So we can't just tell you that things are going to get better and we have high expectations and these children and youth ought to be able to do everything that everybody else does to a certain extent. We have to prove that. And so I have to build some platforms. We have to build some platforms on which we can put our data and we can put our results so that it's easily understood for parents, for the Department of Education, for BESE, so that you know exactly what's going on and we're not hedging our bets. We believe these children can accomplish anything anybody else can accomplish, although we might have to have some accommodations. But in terms of intellectual capabilities and their abilities to learn and to exit out into a career path or post-secondary, there's no reason in the world why we can't make that happen. So if you look at where we've gone, we're not leaving anybody out. This is what I call a 100% in, 100% out plan. What it means is, and you look through there, that 100% of the students are going to meet their annual growth targets. 100% of the students in SSD are going to achieve mastery performance in reading, writing, and numeracy by 3rd grade. 100% of the students will have access to training and employment opportunities available in their Jumpstart regions. 100% of the students graduate from SSD schools with credentials for a clear path to college or career. 100% of the students exiting programs operated by the Office of Juvenile Justice facilities will transition to an appropriate education and workforce program. Those are our specific programs. And we're going to go for everything. We think we can make this happen. The second piece of this is what we've been asked to do is more of a statewide emphasis. And I'll just go through these because I think they're very, very important. 100% of the students in Louisiana with a visual impairment or deafness enter kindergarten ready to learn. That means that we have to do much more work with the local school systems. We have to do much more work in our outreach, identifying kids, working with the medical folks, the Department of Health, so that we can identify these children early, so that no matter where they go, whether it's to a local school system or whether it's to our facilities, that they're going to enter kindergarten ready to learn. The second one, or the 7th one on this sheet, is 100% of families in Louisiana with students experiencing a visual impairment or deafness will be offered services. And these might be a little non-traditional services, not just services by people who are going to be enrolling their children in our schools, but services that we can provide all over the state through our outreach services. So that if there is somebody up in Bossier Parish that needs some help, we have somebody close by who can give them that help. So it's not just for the children, but it's also for the families to help them to understand what they need to be doing. The next one is 100% of school systems have access to professional development opportunities provided by SSD. It's very difficult sometimes for school systems to have access to and even to afford the kind of professional development that's needed so that all these children who have these particular disabilities can function to their top level. So we think that we can help with that. The next one is 100% of school systems will have access to certified or licensed professionals who serve students with low incidence disabilities through state-approved certification and training partnerships established by the SSD. So our goal there is we understand that these teachers and interpreters and O&M specialists, there's just not enough of them. And nobody in Louisiana is producing these folks. So what our intent is to work with the Department of Education and with the universities to partner to develop our own system of certifying and licensing these particular folks so that we will have teachers that are certified in HI and VI. We'll grow these teachers in our own way because there's just not enough of them around right now for us to wait. So I think that's going to be something really exciting for the state. And we'll do that in partnership. It won't be just that we'll be doing it ourselves. We know that there's some universities that are interested in this and some national organizations that might be interested in this. So the goal is that every single student has a qualified, certified, highly trained teacher in front of them. So I'm going to kind of leave you with that, other than to say we are going to have time for us to explain this a little bit better in a couple of different ways. We're going to have a listening session in Alexandria on October 22nd from 6 to 7:30 at the Louisiana Special Ed Center. We'll have a listening session here in Baton Rouge on October 30th out at our facility on Brightside Lane. We'll also have a lot of this information on the department website. It is currently on there, and you can go to the department website and click on special schools and get a lot of information. The next step for us is going to be to get this information and these comments from the public and incorporate that into developing the actual strategic plan so that we don't do this in isolation. We come back and report back to BESE in December about our progress in that, and then from that time on we will come back at regular intervals to tell you what's going on with that. But what we hope to have accomplished by July 1 is an implementation of this strategic plan so that you'll see the kinds of results that not only you demand, but the parents of these children demand and should have. Thank you.
Thank you. you very much, Superintendent. Dr. Bofi, you had a comment you wanted or question?
I do, Dr. Cooper. As I'm listening to this and you spend a little bit of time talking about it, your teachers and the qualifications teachers need in order to help students reach their potential. And I think you have a special opportunity with just the size of the schools that you're working with. And I really want to push you to think about how you create these career pathways that we know are really great for educators, like really operationalize the mentorships. And so I'd like to follow up with you. It's certainly a passion of mine, and have a conversation about just what resources might be out there for you. But I don't believe that we can just get somebody ready and then send them off to do the work and then come back and then help them out. I think there needs to be some support built into the structure and the systems that are really important. And it's something that, one day I hope is in all of our schools. But I know that I know where you are philosophically, and I think you might have a special opportunity to act on it. And so I would just love to have some follow-up conversations with you about it. And I'm excited about you being in this position, and happy to meet the team and look forward to you working with the kids to achieve these goals.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. I'm excited too that we're finally moving forward with this whole initiative. I guess one glaring thing that I know that came kind of out of the report that I'm assuming is under Unified Systems of Support, there was a huge conversation when we had the listening sessions with the evaluators around the governance structure with the whole special school district. And maybe that's a side conversation that, maybe we need to have. But there was some concern about the whole structure and the ability for parents, different stakeholders, I guess to kind of have like a board or some kind of council for policies, for interactions with concerns. And so I know you didn't really address that, but I'm assuming that's probably part of your Unified Systems of Support. But would definitely like to have some subsequent conversations around potential governance options, just to really make sure that, we have a framework around policies, implementation, grievance, just a variety of topics for that district as well. So that's the only glaring thing that I didn't really see, but I can see how we can include that under Unified Systems of Support, and that's really my main concern, and we can just kind of have some conversations on, what your vision and what's part of that framework going forward.
Yeah, well, I'll just say two things. One is this is just the framework, but having said that, one of the things we absolutely are committed to is to be faithful to those reports, and that whole advisory board issue has been a topic of our conversation, and you will see it, and we'll be happy to talk more about it with you.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Are there any comments from the board? Again, thank you so much for the presentation, the work you're doing there. I believe the motion as it stands is to receive. Are there any objections to that motion? Hearing none, that motion carries. Next item, please.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Your next item is on page 141, item 4.3, consideration of a report from education finance staff concerning BESE authorized charter school budgets and expenditure reports, including irregularities or concerns. And the recommendation is to receive.
Need a motion to receive, please? A motion by Dr. Bofi. Need a second? Ms. Vaucher. Do we have a report on this item or any questions from the board? No report. Any questions? No questions. Any objection to the motion? No objection. Motion carries. Next item, please.
On page 146, item 4.4, consideration of LDE RSD contracts and leases of $50,000 and over. The recommendation is to approve. The exec rec and backup documentation was revised on this, and a handout has been distributed. It updates pages 146 and 159.
So members, just to make sure you heard that, you do have a handout for this item from 146 and also an update for page 159. I need to get a motion to approve, please. A motion by Dr. Bofi and a second by Ms. Holloway. Do we have any questions? Ms. Vaucher?
I just don't, on two of them, I have to recuse on the Louisiana School Mental Health Support Program and the Teacher Prep Transition Support.
That's the next item?
That's going to be for the next.
Ms. Vaucher, I think that's the next item.
I can't even read, I'm so.
That's okay, that's okay.
Fine.
Ms. Orange-Jones is the
I'm
next
so
item as well, or
sorry.
for this
I'll wait
one?
till the next one.
on the TFA item.
TFA item? That's the next item.
No, it's
Oh, on this one? I'm sorry. Gotcha. My apologies. Did we have that noted for the record?
Yes.
Good deal. All right, we have cards on this one then, or?
4.4, yes.
These are coming out, wish to speak?
Yep.
All right, if I could have, is this Paul Sampson? Paul Sampson, excuse me if I can't read the handwriting, Jonathan Lovall, Karen Lemoyne, Joy Okoro, and Laura Vincent. I know we only have 4 seats, but the fifth one could line up behind there. Do I have someone who wish to speak?
Yes.
While y'all are coming down, the following folks are in support but do not wish to speak: Ms. Eva Kemp, Katie Walmsley, Mary McCrosser, Alan Gagnier, Anna Parker, Elizabeth Adams, Karen Jacobak, Chelsea Christensen, and Jarrett Williams. They'll be noted into the record. Who wants to start?
I will. Good evening, board members. My name is Joy Okoro, and I co-lead Teach for America in Louisiana alongside my colleague, Laura Vincent. I want to start by thanking you for your time and consideration today, and I promise I will be brief. 28 years ago, Teach for America entered into a partnership with the state of Louisiana to bring talent into classrooms across the state in an effort to address the inequities within our school system. This partnership has allowed us to bring leaders into our ed system, retain them, and support them to make incredible strides for children. Teach for America leaders start out by making a commitment to serve in high-need classrooms for a minimum of 2 years, during which time they are coached to achieve outcomes that will transform the way our students both learn and believe in their own potential. These outcomes are possible because of our teacher coaches who make weekly observations in core member classrooms and partner closely with school leaders and instructional coaches to help our core members in the steep learning curve that we know all new teachers face. Our program makes it possible for teachers across our state in urban, but especially in rural areas, to benefit from development and support that is incredibly robust and produces results for students. Currently, we're able to partner with 8 Louisiana school districts, including Ascension, East Baton Rouge, East Feliciana, Jefferson, Orleans, Point Capee, St. Bernard, and St. Helena parishes. In addition to being able to provide these districts with quality talent and a system of support, we also prioritize the diversity of our leadership force. 50% of Teach for America core members here in New Orleans, in Baton Rouge, and our surrounding parishes identify as people of color, a rate that outpaces demographics across the state, where only 26% of teachers identify as people of color. Similarly, 30% of our core members are the first in their family to attend college, and 40% identify as coming from a low-income background. We know what this type of diversity leads to, the kinds of meaningful results we want to see for our students. Our partners find Teach for America to be a critical resource for the leadership we bring to Louisiana, but also because they believe in the results that they've seen students achieve with Teach for America leaders. Each of you has in front of you a number of letters from school and district partners who have shared not only their support for Teach for America, but their belief in this partnership and the significant opportunity that it holds to advance education in Louisiana. School and district leaders alike believe deeply in the opportunity that exists in partnering with Teach for America, particularly in rural areas where talent recruitment and retention can be a challenge.
Thank you.
And so today there are 7 additional parishes that actually wish to enter into a partnership with us, and right now our placements are just constrained by funding. And so we know that more districts and more schools actually want the energy and the commitment of Teach for America core members, and that we know our state could benefit from having these additional leaders working with students every day as well. So the contract in front of you actually allows us to place 297 educators across our state in the parishes that Joy just named, and over a quarter of them are serving in rural parishes where we know we face acute talent shortages. And so in the face of budgetary constraints, our organization has actually worked to overcome those constraints. We're now fundraising $20 for every dollar that this contract provides for us. And today, there's over 1,500 Teach for America alumni that continue to work in education every day across our state, 90% actually working directly in education or in serving low-income communities. And so again, this partnership allows us to maintain our work in schools and districts, and in the schools and districts that we believe are most critical for our state's success, and allows us to continue investing in leaders from across our country to allow them to serve in our state. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Could you state your name and organization for the record, please?
Yes, Laura Vincent, and I co-lead Teach for America in Louisiana alongside Joy.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Lovell. I'm a citizen and taxpayer in beautiful East Louisiana Parish. I'm a National Board Certified Teacher and a 2008 Teach for America South Louisiana alum. Since 2015, I have served as the assistant principal at Jackson Elementary School, which is a traditional public school in East Louisiana Parish, and the school where my educational journey as an educator and a school teacher began 10 years ago. I understand the deep importance and ongoing challenge of finding, developing, and retaining highly qualified, certified teachers for our rural community public schools. As such, we at Jackson Elementary School have a great appreciation for these partners that not only provide us with access to pipelines of talent, but also help us to develop, support, and coach the professionals in these pipelines. For Jackson Elementary School, Teach for America South Louisiana is a critical pipeline of high-quality, qualified school teachers. Currently, our Jackson Elementary School Cup family includes 2 TFA Corps members in their first year in the classroom, 2 TFA Corps members in their second year in the classroom, and then 7 Teach for America alumni with a combined 54 years of experience as traditional public school teachers and administrators. Like traditional public school teachers across the state of Louisiana, our Teach for America Corps members and alumni have a heart for service and a commitment to professional development and growth. One thing that I particularly appreciate as an administrator is the ongoing coaching and development that our Corps members receive from Teach for America. This is an invaluable partnership that helps us improve teaching and learning at Jackson Elementary School. As a researcher, one of my interests is the powerful positive impact that diversity in teaching and leadership has on students of all backgrounds. Teach for America positively influences our efforts to diversify the Jackson Elementary School staff. Watching Mr. Henning teach confirms for our students that black men are leaders. Watching Mrs. Simons teach confirms for our students that Latino women are leaders. Watching Mrs. Rogers teach confirms for our students that black women are leaders. Certainly, Teach for America is not the only part of our efforts to ensure that we have a highly qualified, diverse faculty committed to improving teaching and learning at Jackson Elementary School. However, Teach for America is an essential part of our Cub family, and as a leader and advocate for traditional public schools in Louisiana's rural communities, I personally thank you as members of this board for your ongoing investment in our rural communities through your support of Teach for America South Louisiana.
Thank you. Next. Make sure the green light's on. There you go.
Got it. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Sampson. I am the principal of Lower Middle School in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. I'm here to support Teach for America. I've been blessed to service the community of Donaldsonville for 3 years. 2 of those years as the assistant principal, and this year as the principal. In my 3 years there, I've been blessed and fortunate to be part of a staff where we've reduced expulsions by 300%, reduced suspensions by almost 50%. We've increased the percentage of students that are moving from basic to mastery in the previous year. In the previous year, we've increased our progress index from a C to a B. And for the first time, we've quadrupled the number of sections that we offer middle school students to take high school level courses. Teach for America is a vital part of that. They're a vital part of that. I work in a rural community, so in spite of all the good things that I just listed, that means that it is extremely hard to staff my school. Just thinking about it, takes from Baton Rouge, it takes 50 minutes to get to my campus. From where I live in Prairieville, it takes anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to get to my campus. If any of you have watched the news and you're familiar with what's occurring with the Sunshine Bridge, that time is just tripled. And so it's that kind of force multiplier, though, that hurts my staff. It makes it hard to staff a school like mine. We need people who want to come in and change the world. We also need people who are willing to fight the social stigma of being at a D or F school, especially in a high-performing district like mine. And Teach for America has been a vital pipeline for that. We've had their core members have been courageous. They've come in, they've done the work, they've made the long commute, they fought the bridge, they fought the traffic, they've done the work, and they do not care about the stigma. We have big plans for things to continue at Lower Middle. We pray that we can continue this good work. Teach for America is a vital part of that. My assistant principal, my partner, Mark Bell, is a Teach for America member alumni. He was serviced Donaldsonville for 7 years. My #1 teacher in terms from moving kids from basic to mastery in my entire school was a second-year TFA member, Miss Annika Butler. My teacher who services my most neediest students, Mr. Jeremy Hamlet, is in his 2nd year with Teach for America. And when I mentioned earlier that I'm able to offer more sections of high school level courses for students, that is because of Miss Soraya Santos. She is certified in 9th grade ELA. So in order for us to continue to close these opportunity gaps and to provide the community and people and students of Donaldsonville the type of educational opportunities they deserve, we need Teach for America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson. And I called down Karen Lemoyne, I believe. Is that person here?
Kevin Lemoyne, the superintendent of Point Capee, was here, wanted to speak, but had to leave for a meeting.
Okay, just want to make sure we weren't missing anybody. Dr. Jones, I believe you had a question or comment?
And she knows this is coming. We had this conversation a couple of days ago, I guess, or yesterday, or whenever it was. You know, I represent a central north Louisiana, all the way basically from St. Landry to the Arkansas line, and all the way from the Mississippi River to the edge of Mr. Davis is over in Jackson Parish, on the edge of Jackson Parish. We have some of the most rural settings, some of the most disadvantaged districts, some of the highest percentages of unqualified teachers. As far as I know, we're the only, in my district, we had a high school where the kids walked out a couple of weeks ago because they didn't have any certified teachers. And I don't mean this to be critical of you, and I really understand that for every dollar we're putting here, you're raising 20 from somewhere else. But really, Teach for Louisiana, or Teach for America in Louisiana is Teach for South Louisiana. There's nobody of these 297 who will be placed north of I-10, as far as I know. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But it's an equity issue that I think at some point the poor, minority, disadvantaged children in the above I-10 need just as much of the services and the certified and qualified teachers as we do in South Louisiana. And so if it's Teach for America, isn't there some way, somewhere in this process, that we can begin to put, I know in the past we've had folks along the quarter coming up of Walls Parish used to get them. I think Natchitoches at one time got them, several places, but we don't get them anymore. And to me, it's not fair that all of those resources, and they are good resources, and y'all do a great job, and I want to commend you for that, and I'm not being critical of you. I'm challenging you, John, and the board to find some way to provide those services to the rest of the state above I-10, at least in some degree.
I have a question.
So, over here, I heard you first, Ms. Holloway.
Yes. Can you explain why you're not servicing anyone above I-10?
Ms. Vincent, why don't you take that one?
No,
We
sure.
had part of this conversation. So.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with a couple of board members. We started nearly 30 years ago. We started as 2 of 6 Teach for America founding regions across the country. There were 6. 2 were here in Louisiana, New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And so over time, we actually have impacted students north of I-10. Actually, when this contract was at about $1 million a couple of years ago, we expanded to the Louisiana Delta. That's when we were in Avoyelles Parish. And so really our private philanthropy base that has been built over 3 decades is in South Louisiana. And so, to respond to Dr. Jones's comment, we would love to be there. We want expansion to be part of our plan. We have a deep, deep desire to grow our impact. This is a funding constraint, and the decrease in this contract over time, right, has meant that we've actually had to pull our resources closer to our central offices.
And for what it's worth, members, Ms. Vincent and I had a pretty strong conversation on this matter, and certainly that's, and as Dr. Jones pointed out, I appreciate the work that TFA does in the state. We'd like to see this change somewhat. We recognize there are constraints on this, and I know that for speaking just for myself as a member, as the other member in North Louisiana like this, as Dr. Jones talked about, to have more conversations. I've committed to have more conversations about how we could potentially partner, find solutions that may work to help expand this footprint for a needed service. But I cannot argue where the organization is now for the geographic reasons and just the simple feasibility of funding and just the geocentric nature of it. It has grown that way over a very long time. The nature of our budget constraints has forced that upon them even more. Again, not to say that I don't want it to move out and I want to work to find those solutions, but I recognize where we are now. So just for my 2 cents to the board members to know I've had that strong conversation already. Ms. Evanston, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I was I'm just curious. We're giving you, I'm sorry, I forgot to look, 400? Yeah. So what is that going for?
So this contract supports the recruitment, selection, placement, and then ongoing support that we offer the coaching that Mr. Lovell was speaking to for those nearly 300 educators across the state for this school year.
Okay, but nothing for teachers that we really need for above.
Well, these are all needed. We just have additional needs.
Right, additional. Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Correct.
And just adding to that,
Ms. Beauchesne?
because the cost is very expensive to do the types of service you're talking about, the districts in which these teachers are placed are also paying per, I mean, I'll just say what I pay, $4,000 per year per teacher. So when we take a TFA, a commitment from TFA for a 2-year commitment, the district puts up $8,000. So it's not just a state allocation you're looking at. The local districts or the schools in which they're placed also have to contribute to this particular effort as well. So it's
good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Mr. Rock, you had a question or comment?
I agree with Dr. Jones and what Dave said. Coming from here in the state that I live, which is in Matthews Parish. And just all the time, I was talking with Ms. Page the other day, and she was telling me how many teachers she has, long-term subs, all over the district, Kennesaw Parish, all of the areas. I would love to see it. I understand money is a constraint, but the need is tremendous in some of these very rural areas. Very difficult to find teachers. Yeah. And as people retire, it's even more difficult to find people, certified people to put in classrooms.
I'll make one point to build on what Mr. Rock said that I think is worth noting, and that is that our border states, just to take examples, Mississippi and Texas, are contributing dramatically more to this cause than the state of Louisiana is. And Laura's right that it was at $1 million when Governor Jindal was in office, and budget cuts have taken it down. But let me tell you, Mississippi and Texas, we're talking about 10 times that, 10 times where we started. And so part of the reason is it's hard to attract core members to the operations in Louisiana because the states in our competitor states are doing so much more. That's not a BESE issue, that's a legislative issue, but it's a serious challenge to getting operations up and running in your Shreveports and your Natchitoches and your Monroe and on all the rural areas around there. So I just wanted to say that for the board because I think it's not just about what's happening here, it's about what's happening elsewhere.
Yeah. Good.
Dr. Jones?
Well, and I want to echo a little bit of that. Once again, I want to say, please don't misunderstand anything I've said here today that, as to be critical of you or your operation. But I've been approached by some legislators who want to know what we can do to get more teachers in these rural schools and so forth in North Louisiana. It would look to me, you know, if we've got all the extra money that all of a sudden we think we have, when this time last year we were just about broke, it would look to me like this might be an appropriate time when we look at the MFP this year to explore the possibility of doing something, more of a financial commitment. I think one of the things that I think is a problem with it is we don't, in many areas in North Louisiana and Central Louisiana, we don't have the funding base for that other $20 per student, or per, I guess per student that you're raising. You know, we have school districts, but I will say this. I've talked to many school districts. I've talked to Avoyelles as late as 2 weeks ago about this very issue, and Avoyelles would love to have you back and is willing to pay whatever it is, you know, that they have to come up with out of their budget. But I just think, John, somewhere this is more than a South Louisiana issue. It's a critical state issue. And we need to figure out how we're going to address it.
I think this conversation has shown that we need to investigate this further and have more conversations. We do have an item on the floor, Ms. Vaucher.
Okay, and I think this is part of a much larger conversation. This is happening where the need for teachers throughout the state and really throughout the country, if we're looking at some type of a recruitment effort for Louisiana schools. We talk to the universities, we're talking to them about their teacher prep programs, and each one of them is telling us how there are fewer and fewer candidates entering the teacher preparation programs as undergraduates in the state. Same thing is true of our alternative certification programs. We're getting fewer and fewer qualified candidates coming in. So this is just, I think, one part of a much, much larger issue. So if we're looking at recruitment practices, because what's happening with, like, and Teach for America candidates are wonderful young people who are very bright and are coming to do good work within our schools, and I'm very thankful to have them. But we also are then putting them through teacher certification programs. In fact, most of the ones that are that we have hired have chosen to come through our alternate provider teacher prep program to become certified. So I think if we're looking at things to do throughout the state to increase people, young people who want to move into education, while we have to look at the national recruitment effort to bring quality candidates into Louisiana, we also have to, I think, spend some money and do a massive recruitment within the state of Louisiana to grow our own people as well to go into the teaching profession, because you talk to any of the universities and the candidates are decreasing and decreasing. So I think we've got to approach this from many, many different fronts as well. And it's extremely important to recruit quality people, both inside and outside of our state, to come and participate in this work. So I'd be very interested in looking at how we can put a group of people together to get some ideas on how do we convince young people to come into the teaching profession, whether it's through an alternate route or an undergraduate route, but we desperately need that talent to look at K-12 education.
Thank you, Ms. Vaucher. Are any other comments on this contract or any others on this item? If not, is there any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion carries. Next item, please.
And thank you to the school leaders for what you do.
Thank you.
Next item is on page 175, item 4.5. Consideration of federal state grants and allocations to LEAs, Type 2 charters, Type 5 charters, approved non-public schools and community-based organizations, competitive and other. Recommendation is to approve.
Dr. Bofi moves. I need a second, please. Dr. Jones seconds. Do I have any questions or comments on this item?
Now, Mr. Davis, I think it's appropriate that I recuse from these two items. I think the AC kicked on a little bit.
Maybe so. We note the recusal for Ms. Voce. Any other recusals that should be noted? Ms. Edmonston?
Teacher prep transition support.
Teacher prep transition support. Please make a note of that. Any other recusals or questions? Any objection to this motion? With no objection, the motion carries. Next item, please.
On page 251, item 5.2, consideration of 8G funding cycle activities, approval of 8G statewide programs for fiscal year 2018-2019. The recommendation is to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Voce. I need a second, please.
Second.
Ms. Holloway, do we have any questions or comments on this item? No questions, comments, any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item, please.
On page 262, item 5.3, consideration of 8G funding cycle activities, building the 8G program and budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. There are two recommendations: A, to receive the 8G Advisory Council meeting minutes, and B, to approve the 8G program and budget allocation for fiscal year 2019-2020. We do want to point out that there's a typo on page 267, and the correct amount is $23.5 million.
So, we can take these separately, or can we do them as one? All right, so we can take these separately to make this a little bit quicker. The motion to receive the minutes. So moved by Ms. Edmonston, second by Mr. Rock. Any objection? None. The motion, that part carries. So the next motion is to approve the program allocation. Do I have a, as outlined, do I have a motion for this item? Dr. Jones, second by Mr. Rock. And this is 5.3, I believe. Do I have two comment cards? I'm going to get public comment, and then we'll go to the board for questions, comment.
I also would like to add on.
You want to add on to the existing motion?
However you want to do it.
Let's, can we get to our public comment? We'll come back to that. I have Wendy Marchand and Dana Doherty, please. If you're still in the audience, could you come up?
Wendy had to leave.
Okay. You win by default.
Okay, correct.
Make sure the green light's on, please.
Okay, I'm great. Okay, I am Dana Doughty. I'm an instructional computer specialist from Beauregard Parish. And this must really mean a lot to me because I still have to drive 3 hours home.
Wow.
Tonight. So, yes. Okay, so I'm here to ask you to continue funding for LEAP 360. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how it was used in our parish. We had some use with LEAP 360 last year in some of our schools, but this year we have district-wide implementation because of the great success that we had. And I want to tell you about a particular success story with our Algebra 1 students. So we have 5 schools in our parish that teach Algebra 1. Only one of those schools was really on board with me and pushed forward with all aspects of LEAP 360, from the diagnostics, the interim, and the practice test. Normally, when we get our Algebra 1 scores, they're fairly consistent throughout the parish between those 5 schools, but that was not the case this year. In our 4 schools that did not utilize LEAP 360, the percentage of basic, mastery, and advanced scores was from 38 to 58%. But my one school, DeRitter Junior High, their basic, mastery, and advanced scores were at 76%. This is huge. This is not the norm for our parish to have that disparity. And when we go to the schools and we talk to them, those Algebra 1 teachers at DeRitter Junior High just could not say enough positive things about LEAP 360. I think the most positive feedback that we've had is that it allows the teachers to do what they do best, which is teach and not spend time writing test questions. Also, I think there's a little bit of a misconception with the program that this is additional testing. This is really meant to replace testing. So what we did was basically scrap our district teacher-made pre- and post-tests, which was a little daunting for me because I wrote some of those tests and I had to look at them objectively and say, okay, this is better. This is better material. These are, the Part A and Part B questions that are really difficult for us to write because, let's face it, we really haven't been trained in how to write those test questions, but we do know how to teach. So it allows us to focus on what is most important. That material is there for us already. It's made. It's in the same portal that they are actually going to access when they are taking these summative tests. So if you've got a kid that has practiced in that same portal all year long, you take a lot of the nervous jitters out, which I'm sure you know some students that get a little nervous during testing time. It's normal. It's normal. This is the portal where we practice. This is a portal where I learned how to use my online tools. I know how to graph online. I know how to use that online calculator. So we have seen great success, and we would ask you to please continue funding this program with a particular plea from my DeRitter Junior High School Algebra 1 teachers.
Thank you. That's a great story. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you for staying with us to do so.
Thank you.
Dr. Brophy, you want to add something to what we've got going on here?
Well, I just want to thank you for making the drive. It's a long drive from Lafayette to Beauregard Parish to come all the way to Baton Rouge, especially in the weather today, but also just to support something that I know that the department and the staff here has really invested a lot of time and effort into. So it's exciting that you all are embracing that. So I'm really excited about it and would like to get your contact information and follow up on a couple of things with you.
Great.
I wanted to bring up something. So this is do I do it as a substitute, Shan?
No, you're adding on to the motion to approve the...
So I want to add on to the motion, according to Shan. I'm going to explain what I want to do, and then I'll read it.
Tell me what you want to do.
I think I can explain it in a way to make sense to you all, and then I'll read it to make it official. So I want to create a mechanism for us to be able to utilize unclaimed dollars. So as of now, unclaimed dollars are not utilized in the current year.
Specifically for 8G, to be clear.
For 8G. Yeah, this is for 8G. So I want to create a mechanism. I'm not even going to look at them because if I get it wrong, they're making faces at each other. I want to create a mechanism for us to be able to utilize these unclaimed dollars. So the motion reads, should additional BESE 8G funding become available as a result of unclaimed 8G funding for fiscal year 2019-2020, BESE reserves the right to reallocate funding for fiscal year 2019-2020 not to exceed the overall budget allocation of $23,275,000, $23,500,000, noting that this reallocation or revision to the overall program and budget is subject to BESE approval. Now we all know that it's not going to be $23,500,000 unclaimed. Likely, it is a whole lot less than that. But any unclaimed funds that we do have, this would provide a mechanism for us to then have a conversation about how we could allocate it.
And Dr. Jones, question on this?
Yeah, and I caught the tail. I had to step out for a minute. I'm sorry. Well, in the past, what has happened to those monies?
So my understanding that in the past is that it just has gotten rolled over to the next year. Is that right? Why don't y'all come to the mic so I don't mess this up?
So it really hasn't been lost. It's just been rolled over into the available pile for the following.
Let's get the officials to comment.
Kim Trippo, BESE staff, and that's usually what transpires. The funding that is not allocated or not claimed by agencies, it remains, and you have to remember that we don't get our funding all at one time, so we get it monthly, and therefore we may not get as much as we anticipate from month to month. So we have that cushion or stabilization there to be able to get to our final or our total budget. But there are, we typically have something to play with, and in the past, one year we did.
Don't say play.
Well,
that's such a
well.
In the past,
strike play. In the past, we have used and we also have used it. Let's just say I think one year we bought elementary kits.
Mm-hmm.
So we may have taken maybe $50,000 and bought pre-K kits for different agencies. So
they want to. I know there's a question about how much money this generally is
on the app.
It's not here.
Yeah, just
on the average ballpark.
100,000? I would say 100, 200,000. And this generally comes from agencies that we're reimbursable. So some of them decline their funding because it could be a small amount, or they don't have the funding up front to cover it and wait for the reimbursement.
Or they don't want to go through the process
Or they do not want to go through
that 8G requires.
Correct.
Because
that
there's some
process.
accountability factor.
Absolutely.
It's not worth it to them.
In some instances, yes,
Yes.
that is the case. So like I said, it's varying reasons to where there may be some funding.
Just a quick point of clarification. We're discussing this option right now.
Right.
When we get to the point where we want to go further, I'm going to go to you, Dr. Jones. It's just a quick add-on to his, since he was made the original motion. Make sure we understand it before we get to that point. Ms. Vosch, I think you had a comment.
Yeah. Okay. Am I to understand all of the money initially is allocated or obligated, and these funds that are not used are just funds that you're saying the entity who was allocated has either decided not to use it?
Correct.
So it's a little extras from all these different allocations.
Correct.
So we would not be holding back. For example, this $23,275,000, we would obligate the entire amount.
Correct.
So we wouldn't hold back any money to do something else with later. So this is just that leftover.
It
And
just
we would-
creates a mechanism to do something with that, and if we don't have that mechanism, we don't do anything
And
with it.
now, whose decision is it, for example, if there's 200,000 left over, 100,000, whose decision is it to spend it, and how is it normally spent when you roll it over?
We roll it over the following year. We just, it would
I
just
know, but you only obligate our new money the following year. What do we do with that? Do we throw it into
It helps
a
for
pot?
cash flow is what it sounds like.
Right. It kind of
You do
fronts.
what?
Because what's been projected that we would get this year is 16.5.
All right.
But we're approving a budget of 23.5 because we have that carry forward from previous years, and we hope to get more interest through the course of the year than what's projected. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't.
So that's like a little less than.
So really, it's more of a financial tool. I think the answer is it's a financial tool more than there's.
It is, but it does work out, Doris.
I know it works out because I've seen it.
Right.
And I know that the projection is a conservative one, and it
Yes.
always turns out to be around this amount. I do understand
Right,
that.
and we kind of use this, or we use the term stabilization, because just as Shan said, we only, we get an estimate of about 16 million, and so we have that stabilization that we keep from year to year to keep it so that we're able to get to the
And the
23.
object is to get as close to spending 23.5 as we can, because when we get allocated the money from the legislature to begin with, they look at how much we've spent in the past.
Right.
And they have reduced us in the past based on not expending all the funds. So we want to get as close to that number
Well,
as
if
we
you have
can.
any left over, I'll spend it all for you.
I'm getting lobbied by my fellow BESE members that would like direct access to these funds.
Already?
All right. It's late.
This is getting
Let's
out
get
of
this thing
hand,
done.
Mr. Davis.
I want to give you a little bit of flexibility in your control over this money than what we've done in the past.
Gotcha. So we know the intent now. Dr. Jones, knowing that intent, since you made the original motion, would you add, are you comfortable adding that wording to your motion?
Well, I want to ask one question about it. I noticed in the minutes from the AG Advisory Council that was in the packet, Senator Walsworth had made a request that we use whatever was left over for the LEAP 360 program. And that is not exactly what you're saying, is it, Dr.
We
Bofi?
would determine at a future date, y'all would determine what you do with the money.
Right. So in other
it
words,
would
this
be
is
an
not
option.
saying that if there is money left over right now, it's going to LEAP 360.
That's correct.
It's saying that we will at some point determine that in the future.
Correct.
Because I think in the minutes, Dr. Jones, the term that's being used is unexpended funds.
In the minutes.
So
Yeah,
we're hedging our bet
unexpended
here.
fund. But that's essentially what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yes.
These are funds obligated but not expended, right?
Correct.
So they're unexpended.
They're unexpended funds.
Unexpended funds, we usually consider those to be those that at the end, those who have claimed their money, who for whatever reason do not claim it all, that's then unexpended.
Okay, let me ask the question a simpler way, because the way I remember it. October 1, I think it is, you have a deadline, because I remember a superintendent in the parish in my district a few years ago
remember that.
who didn't get his paperwork in on time, and was $30,000, and $30,000 meant a lot to him, but unfortunately he didn't get it in time, and I spent a weekend talking with him about how he was going to get his money back one way or the other, and yada yada. So I'm assuming that that's the money we're talking about here, money like that.
He actually had written a grant proposal and didn't submit the reimbursement.
And he didn't submit the paperwork, so that was unexpended funds.
This was unexpended statewide.
But this 360, I want to clarify, is a statewide program. This is something that the department has chosen to use their allocation for. So that's a little bit different. What Senator Walsworth was trying to say here is, LDE, I want you to continue funding this program.
Okay, I get that, but with what Dr. Bovey's doing here.
But LDE unexpended money is different from.
Okay, but our unexpended money, it's never really unexpended. It's not lost. We just end up reallocating it the following year. Am I understanding you to say that you want us to allocate it at the end of the year within that year? Or what?
Yes.
I want us to have the ability to. I want us to have the ability to, and be able to have a conversation about it.
Okay.
So if we don't, we'll have to come back and talk about the money again. Mr. Rock's getting excited about that conversation. He's ready to have it. But at this point, we don't even know what it is.
Let's remember that's a conversation for next time. Let's get through this one right now, folks.
Right. That's why I want to deflate his balloon before he gets it up.
There we go.
Here.
So understand the technicalities a little bit more. I have a question from this side. Ms. Lewis?
Just one quick question. So I hate to just get tactical on this. So can we put a deadline on when that money not expended? Because I don't want this to be the April meeting and then it's June 30th that they got to spend the money by. So can we say by the March meeting or January, or as money is available?
We're going to know
maybe?
pretty soon. Won't we know pretty soon?
Will they reimburse?
Because I just don't want it to linger.
Grant, so it's a little, that makes it really complicated to stipulate that.
Can we just say as needed, as it becomes available or something? Because I just don't want the money to be here in April and then we have the money that's there, but then we can't use the money so it's rolled over again. So what's the point?
So how about this?
What's got to come back?
If we get the motion, if Dr. Jones will agree to the motion, and we get a second on that, so we're still talking on, we don't have that on the motion on the table right now, but we all understand this is simply providing an opportunity. Providing the opportunity, potentially, for these dollars. We'll get details on timelines, uses, all those other things. So the choice now is we put this motion in and get a second. Dr. Jones, you're agreeing to the motion?
I agree.
So the substitute to your motion then, so we have this on the floor. We'll use the second we already had for this, so therefore a vote in favor of this means we will allow ourselves, as the BESE board, we would then have the opportunity, should these funds be available. In the interim, we'll get information from BESE staff on additional details to satisfy Ms. Lewis. Is that clear for everyone?
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other discussions? If not, any objection? No objection, the motion carries. Next item, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
On page 277, item 7.2, consideration of the 2017-2018 report regarding alternative education schools and programs. Recommendation is to approve the report and authorize the LDE to submit to the Governor's Office and the House and Senate Education Committees.
I'd like a motion to both approve and authorize, please. Dr. Jones moves, second by Dr. Bophy. Any questions or comments on this item? Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item.
On page 287, item 8.1, consideration of the Minimum Foundation Program Task Force. Recommendation is to ratify the interim approval of a BESE appointment to the MFP Task Force. Mr. David Claxton, Jackson Parish Superintendent, as a small district superintendent appointee.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Vaucher, and a second, please. Second for the motion. Over here, Ms. Holloway. Any objection to the motion? With no objection, the motion carries. Next item.
That was your last item. It concludes your agenda.
Have a good evening, people.